Hey everyone, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. I am here today with Radhika Fox. She is the Assistant Administrator for the EPA Office of Water. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to see you again, Bob.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you again. It's been so long, like COVID really took things a while, but Clean Water Act, celebrating 50 years.
Yeah.
How is EPA doing that? What are you guys talking about when it comes to the Clean Water Act?
Well, it's absolutely incredible, actually, the Clean Water Act. If you think about 50 years ago, our rivers were so polluted that they ran in color, they were on fire. And, you know, the Clean Water Act really set the legal, policy, funding, partnership framework for how we were going to tackle and restore the beauty of our nation's waters. And so what we've been doing at EPA is both taking time to celebrate all of the incredible progress that is happening in communities around the country. And so I've been on what we're calling our Clean Water Act at 50 celebration tour.
Okay.
We've been visiting and hearing the stories of progress from communities from the Chesapeake Bay to the Puget Sound to the confluence of the Kansas City and Missouri River, really celebrating that progress, but also taking time to say, you know, what do we need to put in place as a nation to secure the next 50 years of progress? And so we've been doing a lot of work on strengthening the regulatory framework of the Clean Water Act through a number of rulemakings, which we can talk about. And then also, you know, frankly, with the $50 billion in water infrastructure investment through the bipartisan infrastructure law, I think we're about to supercharge the next 50 years of progress.
Yeah, well, that's a great segue into the next question I had, which is we saw the funding allocations for 18 states not too long ago. We're curious on what's the timeline? What's it look like for the next states and the states after that to make sure that they got some funding from this infrastructure bill?
Yeah, I have to say I have been so impressed with how quickly the states have been developing their intended use plans for the $40 billion plus in SRF investment. And Bob, we have over 35 states who have gotten their capitalization for the first year of bill funding, and over 100 different IUPs, intended use plans, that are invested in. And so what's going to happen is the states are now turning around and starting to fund projects. So a lot of the water systems that listen to your show, they're going to be getting those checks soon to start building all that infrastructure. And what's so exciting about the bipartisan infrastructure law is there is the money through the SRFs, but we also have a tremendous amount of investment through our geographic programs, as well as our National Estuary Program. So a lot of great watershed restoration work is also going to be ensuing in the coming months.
Yeah, well, and that's a great background that you have with U.S. Water Alliance and One Water as well, kind of tying all those things together too. One of the things we want to talk about too is the PFAS drinking water regulations. We saw that EPA recently sent that over to OMB. What can industry professionals look forward to when it comes to that regulation? What should they be preparing for? Is there anything you can tell us about that?
You know, not so many details because it's, of course, we're still in a deliberative mode. But yes, you're absolutely right that we were really proud to transmit our rule to OMB, and we are on track to have a proposed rule out for public comment by the end of the year. So exciting times. You know, as far as what I can say, I think that the water industry can expect a rule that is really going to follow the science. It's going to follow the law. There's going to be a focus on a durable rule that can, withstand litigation, and also one that is really focused on implementation. I think, Bob, I started my career in water at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. So, with all of our rulemakings, I'm really focused on the real world implementation. Because, if I was still at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission and PFAS, EPA did a PFAS drinking water rule. That's, that I am bringing towards it. There will be a MCLG, a maximum contaminant level goal set, as well as an enforceable standard. And, I think folks can expect that they may be different numbers, just like we have, for example, in the lead and copper rule. So really excited for that rule to be on the streets and to get all the feedback from the water community on it as we move to final.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that detail on that. I'm curious too, on the wastewater side, obviously there's PFAS concerns there. Is there anything you can share with the wastewater side of the PFAS equation?
Absolutely. I think actually that is one of the strengths of the Clean Water Act, is that we have a lot of tools that we can utilize to tackle PFAS, and in particular to really address the issue of not having PFAS discharged into our waters in the first place. So we have a couple of rules through our Effluent Limitation Guidelines program focused on PFAS.
Okay.
And then also, we are in the process of developing a risk assessment for biosolids and the presence of PFAS and biosolids, which is of course for many wastewater utilities a real frontier issue, and looking to work very collaboratively with the water industry on how we maintain biosolids and land application in particular as an ongoing beneficial use, but to really balance that with public health considerations as well.
Yeah, like a lot of work ahead of you.
Yes. It's a great time, but a busy time to be in the water sector. Yep.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to 2023. What are some of the goals that you have in mind for 2023 for EPA Office of Water?
Yeah. Well, I think, the first is to continue to restore and strengthen the agency. We are, excited to have greater funding. We're hiring at the EPA. It's a great place to work. Check out USA Jobs. So, we want to strengthen the EPA as an agency. There are so many inspiring and dedicated career staff, and we want to support their growth. We want to bring in the next generation of leaders into the EPA. So really strengthening the very fabric of the agency is a top priority for myself, for Administrator Regan. Also, I'm really proud that in the last year and a half or so, that we have had a very proactive regulatory agenda that has been about really strengthening the authority that we have both under the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act. And so we want to see all of those rules, whether it's the PFAS ones we just talked about, whether it's our WOTUS rulemaking, our 401 water quality certification rulemaking, our lead and copper rule, our tribal reserved rights rule. We want to get all of those to the finish line and support communities around the country in implementation. And then I would say our third priority is to continue to steward the bipartisan infrastructure law dollars in a way that really bends the arc towards equity and opportunity, so that every community, urban, rural, suburban, small and large, have access to these historic investments.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate having the time finally again.
I know, it's great to see you. I'm so glad you weathered COVID, and great to be back at WEFTech.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for everyone who's watching, check out our video description below for some more details on some of the things that we talked about today. Thanks so much, and we'll see you with the next one.